Hello, Black women. Hello, friends. Let's talk about making your decision to leave the country. Let's talk through what should factor or could factor into your decision to leave the United States of America now, and some things that I think don't need to factor in that you might be factoring in. And also let's talk about some first steps if that's a thing that you're interested in, okay? If you've decided that the United States of America is not a place that is going to support your well-being, right? If you decided that the United States of America does not any longer align with your values, if it ever did, if you decided that this is just a place you don't want to be, let's talk about how to make this decision to leave and some first steps. I'm coming to you from Bogota, Colombia right now. I'm on my scouting trip. I've been in Bogota for more than 3 weeks. I leave in just a few days, and I've been checking it out as a place for me to live for good. And so that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you. Let me see. I can show. I don't have a great view of Bogota from here. Look, there's just a little bit. There's a peak, but I promise you, there's more there. It's a big city. There's more than just that. Okay. I've been in Bogota checking it out, and so I just did a video on scouting trips, on like what to scout out in a new country. I'll link to that video up here for you. But stick around here first. I'll also put it in the description of this video so you can get to it later. But first, let's talk about your decision to leave. I have not lived in the United States since September of 2015. I've been traveling full-time since 2015. I've been a full-time traveler. I've bopped to, I'm going to go with 40 countries. I went to just 5 countries last year. So I'm going to go with 40 countries in the last 8-9 years. Instead of living in the United States. So the first thing I want to talk about in making your decision to leave is that you don't necessarily have to know where you want to go. Surprise. You don't necessarily need to know where you're going to leave, because it's a world where your U.S. passport gives you entrance into a lot of places, and for a decent amount of time. For a lot of places, we're talking 90 days, 3 months. But for some places, we're talking 180 days, right? In some places, you can come for 180 days, leave, and then come right back for another 180 days. And so that means that you don't have to necessarily move to another country to leave the United States of America. You can still get those benefits of being out of the U.S. without doing an official move to another place. So point number 1, you can bop around the world with that U.S. passport as it stands right now. With that powerful blue passport, you can see a good portion of the world for a good amount of time without having to make like an official move somewhere. I told you, it's been since 2015 that I've been traveling full time. It's January of 2025. Oh yeah, 10 years, almost 9.5 years. And I'm just now like, let me settle down somewhere. Let me get a residency. Let me get a home somewhere, right? You don't necessarily need to know where you're going, okay? Point number 1. You need to know a few places that you're interested in seeing, and you need to know how to get in those places, right? Do I need just my passport? Is there visa-free entry? Do I get a visa on arrival? Do I need to do an electronic visa, fill out some paperwork online to get an electronic visa to let me in? Do I need to do some other entry process? You need to know where you want to go, and you need to know how to get in that place. You don't need to know where you want to live. In fact, quite a few women in the Exodus Summit community, once they do move to a place officially and get there and spend a lot of time decompressing and resting, they still are like, you know what? I want to try another place and another place and another place. Mary Goff created her Black Women Expats in Panama Facebook group. She has a tight community of Black women in Panama City, Panama. And Mary just announced, you know what? I moved to Portugal. So you don't have to settle in one place, which means you may not need to do a lot of the work of moving abroad to leave the country. Okay? You may, right now, that might sound really scary to you. Right now, it probably sounds really scary if you've never been a free bird out in the world, right? But it's been pretty awesome, and it's awesome for a lot of women because that is freedom, right? Not having a country to weigh you down, but also like not having stuff that really weighs you down and being able to pick up and go where you want, when you want, not having a home that says you have to stay here because you got to pay for this, is a is a feeling of freedom that a lot of Black women have never experienced before. And once we do, it's pretty nice. It's really nice, okay? Point number one, you don't need to know necessarily where you're moving to leave the United States of America. So now that I've given you an easier thing about moving, let's give you a second easier thing. You don't need citizenship in another country to move to another country. You need residency. You need legal residency, not citizenship. So let's say you do bop around for a while, and then you're like, oh, I love Bogota, Colombia too. I'm moving there. You don't need to Google citizenship stuff, right? You need to find out how to get temporary or permanent residency in a place, but citizenship is usually far off in the distance if it's ever going to be a thing for you. Now, if you have parents, grandparents, great-grandparents who came from a different country and that country has a clear pathway to you getting citizenship in that country, it's probably worth it, I would think. It's probably worthwhile if you're eligible for citizenship in another country, or if you're married to a citizen of another country and they're like, you can get it too, right? Might be worthwhile. Always helpful to have another place that'll take you in, but it's not a requirement to moving abroad. So a lot of people inside of the Exodus Summit community start off with like, where can I get citizenship, and do they allow dual citizenship? And girl, you don't need all that, okay? You need a residency visa, temporary or permanent residency, and then figure it out from there. If you ever do. Plenty of people who've moved abroad, I would go with I'm gonna make up a number and say 99%, but seriously, most of the people who move abroad from the US to another country never worry about becoming a citizen of that other country, right? Because residency does them just fine. Generally, the difference is, this is a big generalization, but generally the difference is citizens can vote in that place and residents can't. In some places, citizens can buy property and residents can't. That's about it. Like, seriously, that's about it. So, free bird and residency, not citizenship. Another thing that I think we might be overweighing in our decision to leave the United States of America is our familial or ancestral ties to the United States of America. Gently and with love, I want to say, if you're the descendants of enslaved people, why are you feeling loyal to this country? I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm saying this country, I'm not there. That country. I mean that country. The country you're in, not the country I'm in. I'm in Colombia, okay? But if your people were brought there in chains to work for nothing and give their lives, and ended up giving their lives in a place that they did not want to be, I think factoring in the fact that they built that country into your decision to leave is unnecessary, because they did not want to be there. And now you've got access to another place. What would they have given? Seriously, what would they have given to be able to go someplace else? Now you have the freedom to go someplace else, and you let them hold you where you are when they did not want to be held where you are. So that's a third thing I think we don't need to factor into this decision. Okay. Fourth thing you don't need to factor into this decision, which is going to be an easy thing and a hard thing. Okay. The easy thing is you don't need to worry about getting a job in another country. Okay. Because chances are you're not going to get a job in another country unless, let's throw out some examples of who does successfully get a job in another country. Okay. Number one, you already work for an international organization. You already work for a multinational company that has a pathway to moving you someplace else. Okay. Number two, you're a teacher. Teachers can teach at international schools in other countries, international schools around the world. And so if you're a teacher, or if you already work for a multinational organization that moves people abroad, then you have a shot. Okay. Number three, if you are a very a very in-demand skill. If you have a very in-demand skill around the world, and you probably already know that, right? If you already do a thing that is super in demand all around the world, then there are countries who will bring you there, right? So the good news is you don't have to worry about getting a job in another country, but that's also a bad news situation. This is good news and bad news because it means you need to know how you're going to support yourself in another country. Okay, quite a few women in the Exodus Summit community, which I promise I'm going to tell you about. Okay, quite a few women in that community find that they can retire because they've got savings, they've got investment income. They've got retirement income, they've got some money, and they can retire in another country, even if it looked like they couldn't retire in the US. Not only because the cost of living is different in other places, right? You can go to a place with a lower cost of living, but also because some of the things that are going to drag you down in your old age in the United States are not going to drag you down in another country. And I'm talking about paying for health care specifically. Paying for health care in the United States is such a big part of our lives that we don't understand how set free you are when you go to a country where healthcare is not a for-profit shareholder profit business, right? When healthcare is just healthcare. When healthcare does not exist to line the pockets of a few greedy shareholders, but when healthcare exists to care for the health of the people. Right? That means that you don't have to expect thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical bills or hundreds of thousands of dollars in nursing home expenses in order to move to another country or when you move to another country in your old age. Quite a few women in our community have said that they expect to be able to grow old with more financial security because they've left the United States of America. But we're talking about the job situation. This means that a lot of women can just retire, right? If you know that your health care is going to come at a much more reasonably priced cost and be better care in general, right? And you can go to a country with a lower cost of living, a city with a lower cost of living, that can really help you retire before you thought you could retire, okay? The other thing that the women inside of our community do is either work online, start a business, where you can be anywhere in the world that you want to be, but make money, which is me, right? That's a thing that I do. Or rely on their investment income to be able to live in another place. Getting a job in another country is most likely not the way to go, unless you're one of the three groups that I talked about just a second ago. But thankfully, we live in an age where you don't necessarily need a job in that place to live in that place. Okay, so if you already are into finding remote work or you already have remote work, congratulations, okay? If you're the world is yours, make sure that you have truly remote work and not just work from anywhere, or not just like work from home jobs, but like truly remote jobs. There are employers out there who are remote first, as Libria Jones calls them, and who really let you be anywhere in the world to do that job. I will link to a resource from Libria Jones in the description of this video as well. Okay, so job question. The question that you're asking is not the right question, but there is a job or income or money question for you to figure out to be able to move abroad. Okay, remember this. You don't have to move abroad forever. You can leave the United States for now, take a sabbatical, take a career break, take a gap year, take a time off, time out, pause. You can leave the country today and go back to work later. That was my original plan in 2015. I left for 1 year. I had 1 year of savings, right? I had $14,400, and I went to Southeast Asia where I knew I could live on $14,400 for a full year, and I did. And then my plan was to come back to the U.S. and work again, and then save up some money and quit again, and then work again and quit again. It turns out I started making money on the internet, first as a virtual assistant, and then my YouTube channel and a coaching business, right? So that I didn't have to keep doing that back and forth. But that was my original plan. If you do something that you can do as a contract employee, that's also a good option for you. There are many more options to being able to afford to live in another country than just getting a job in that country, okay? The other thing that I want to say that is not as big of a factor as you think it is the idea of, I want to move abroad, but I don't want to leave my family. Like, girl, nobody is asking you to never speak to them again, okay? Just like people move from the East Coast to the West Coast, you can move from the United States to another country and still be in connection with, in community with, in relationship with your family members. In fact, some of them might join you and might spend more time with you. This is what happens for me. People might spend more time with you when you're in another country than they do in a place that you live currently that they don't want to visit. I lived in Delaware. Didn't nobody want to come visit me in Delaware, okay? But people have visited me in Paris, in Costa Rica, in Colombia, in the Caribbean, right? Uh, Nobody's saying because you move to another country, you have to totally abandon and cut off your family. That's not how it works. In fact, what might happen is you might open the door to them also living someplace else, going someplace that is better suited to their well-being and their values. Might be the same place you go to, might not be, but you don't have to factor in leaving your family as if you're abandoning your family if you move to another place. They're two different things. In fact, some people have abandoned their family and they live under the same roof. Okay? And other people are very much connected to their family and live on different continents. You can do that. It's a thing. It is a thing, okay? Or, right, they might want to come with you. You might go to a place where a home health aide is so reasonably priced, or the nursing home or something, or a home with multiple generational living, equipped for multiple generational living. You might find that is so reasonably priced that you're like, oh, why were we in the U.S. in the first place? Okay, nobody's asking you to abandon your family. Okay, so factors, I think those are the major things that usually factor into people's decisions, and I think that those are things that can be put into perspective. We already talked about residency being a thing that people don't know to factor in, and finding remote work because you're tied to citizenship and getting a job in another country, which aren't the way for most people. So let me see, is there anything else that I think that you'd need to add to your list of things that you want to factor in to making your decision to leave the United States? So I slipped in healthcare, right? I slipped in the fact that you're going to love healthcare in another country. Now, this is a whole video in itself, so let me know if you want me to bring on some people who have gotten healthcare abroad and we can talk about their individual circumstances. I'll link to some video description, just some videos in the description of this video anyway. But just remember that there is such a thing as healthcare for healthcare's sake. And that if you get that in another place, you're not going to want to come back to healthcare in the United States. All I've had done is I've been to the dermatologist in Bogota, Colombia, and I've been to the dentist in Costa Rica. I had 3 root canals and crowns in Costa Rica. And man, when I tell you the experience was better, it's not just about the price being better, but the experience was better. Like the healthcare providers were actually able to talk to me, sit and communicate with me. They have been the dentist WhatsApped me like 3 or 4 different times before and after the visit, and like the actual dentist, not a receptionist or not somebody in the office, the actual dentist communicated with me before and after the appointment. It's a different experience and it'll make you not want to go back. So, healthcare, cost of living. Let me add this in. Okay, let me add in this third thing that you're probably not necessarily considering. People probably will tell you, you can't move to X country because they don't like black people there. Okay. But I am the co-founder of a community of 23,000 black women, most of whom are from the United States, who either have moved abroad or are moving abroad or have taken career breaks and sabbaticals in another country, right? And let me tell you, there is no place on your list where you're going to feel treated worse than you feel treated in the United States of America. Okay, their racism is worldwide, and the ideology of white supremacy and that are worldwide. Okay, they had a far reach, but there's no place you're gonna go. There's no place you're gonna go where you're gonna be like, these people treated me worse than I get treated in the United States. Doesn't happen. For one, you have that American accent, which gives you American privilege. When you sound like an American and you look like an American, no matter where I go, people look at me and they see an American, right? When you sound like, you look like an American, they assume you got them American dollars, and people will treat you pretty nicely. You'll get to experience American privilege for the first time. For the first time, you'll get to feel like what it's like to be a full-fledged American. Because you only feel that as Black people. You only feel that outside of the doors of the United States of America. What happens for me, let me speak for myself now. I already spoke for the 23,000 women in the community, but let me speak for myself. What happens for me is in other places, I get to be me, Stephanie, right? Not a person who is supposed to be a stand-in for an entire race of people. In the United States, when people see a Black woman, they have a preconceived idea of who and what you are and how you should be treated, how much respect you do or do not get. They already have that figured out in their minds. Other places, they don't care. They're not thinking about you. They're not thinking about you. They're going on about their day, about their lives. They don't have those, I want to say innate. They're not innate. They don't have those pre-existing like stereotypes to the same extent that white Americans have. White people in the United States expect Black women to be the workhorses of society. White people in the United States expect Black women to carry an inhuman load. And in other places, I'm just a person. I'm just a woman. I'm just a human person walking around my day, asking them questions in broken Spanish, like a 2.5-year-old, right? They might think I'm a little dumb, right? They be like, this girl, she says the key doesn't work and she means the key doesn't function. How dumb is she, right? But they don't assume a whole lot of things that white people in the United States assume about Black people. It's pretty nice. It's really nice to go on about your day without being always constantly confronted with the worst white people in the world. I believe the United States of America, the white people in the United States are the worst white people. I have not been to every country, but I've been to 6 of the 7 continents. And there's not too many white people that are as bad as the white people we got. Y'all got. I'm not there, okay? US, South Africa, Australia, they're terrible white people. And you get to go places where either you don't see white people at all, right? Or if you do, they're not the same. They don't care about you. They don't care. They don't care. So that's another thing to factor in. Just the fact that you're going to be able to breathe easier and feel better. Another thing, safety, another thing you're probably not factoring in. People used to ask this question all the time, but I don't know if I just have tuned out the question or what, but people used to ask, is it safe in such and such a country? I want to move to XYZ country. Is it safe there? Meanwhile, the person who's asking this is from St. Louis. Like, girl, if you can survive St. Louis, you can make it anywhere. There's no place that you want to go. There's no place on your list as dangerous as the city you're from in the United States. And I still stand by that. I still stand by that. The places that women inside of the Exodus Summit community are moving to are some of the safest places in the world. But even if they weren't, right? Because Bogota is not one of the safest cities in the world. I still feel safer walking around Bogota than I would in Wilmington, Delaware. Okay? So safety, you're over considering it and also under considering it. You're not considering how safe, how free you'll feel in another place, particularly if you have young children. If you have children who today, because they're Black, you have to swarm around, you have to be a hedge around, you're going to really like being in another country and letting your kids just be kids. You're going to like it and they're going to love it. They're going to thrive. Again, I'll link to some videos in the description of some parents who have moved abroad with their school age or younger school age kids, and you'll see how much they love it. Okay, you'll see. So, some things to consider and not consider about making your decision to live in the United States. So, I told you I was going to give you some first steps. Step number one, if you're a Black woman, join the Exodus Summit community. The Exodus Summit community right now is on Facebook. If you're watching this January 2025, we're still on Facebook, but we're making our exit. We're going to move Exodus Summit off of Facebook soon. But join us on Facebook. Go to exodussummit.com/community. Join us. And then we'll move and we'll tell you where we go, okay? If you join us on Facebook, you won't miss us when we move to another place. You won't miss out, okay? But first, get in community with people who have normalized this conversation instead of the conversation of, I'm not leaving, they're not running me up out of here. Join the conversation of women who are like, I'm gone. I'm going someplace where I can live free. Join the Exodus Summit community. If you're not a Black woman, there are other communities for people who are planning their exodus. The Blacks at Global community is male and female. It's all gender friendly. So if you're a man, if you're not a Black woman, if you're Black but you're not a woman, let me say it like that. If you're Black but you're not a woman, the Blacks at Global community is also a place for you. But yeah, there are other places on the internet. You'll find them. So step number one, get in community with people who are already doing this thing. It'll make it easier for you to do this thing. Not only will it make it more realistic, but also people will help you with the individual steps along the way. Okay? Step number two, take our quiz. Exodus Summit has created a quiz called Which Country Should I Move To? The quiz will give you a city to consider for your move abroad. I'm not saying the quiz is going to tell you the city you should move to. It's going to tell you a city that you can start with, okay? And then you can find out what are your needs. What are your wants? Does this city match up with that in the right way? The quiz also helps you work you through some of the questions about moving abroad that you don't yet know to ask. So take the quiz, exodussummit.com/quiz to take the Which Country Should I Move To quiz. It will be really helpful in getting you started on your move abroad plan, on your move abroad considerations, right? If you're considering this, the quiz will help you, okay? The quiz, of course, is linked in the description of this video. You already know I'm going to say that. Okay, so step number three, so we've said to get in community. We've said take the quiz. Step number three is start figuring out. You don't have to figure it out on your own, but start figuring out how would you support yourself in another place financially, okay? If I've busted your bubble about getting a job in another country, what are your options? What are the possibilities for you, right? Could it be remote work? Could it be coaching or online business or consulting? Could it be some sort of like locum tenens work? I say that wrong every time, where you work in the U.S. for a few months, but then you leave for months at a time. Could it be investment income? Start working on some possibles, right? Start working on some possibles. You don't have to figure that all the way out on your own, but start working on some possible. So if you aren't going to figure this all the way out on your own, where are you going to figure it out? I'm glad you asked that. The Exodus Summit community has put together a membership that is a coaching space to help you get your Peace Out protocol together. The Exodus ASAP membership is about you spending focused, concentrated time on planning your exit. If you want to make your exodus from the United States, but you want some coaching and some support from the Exodus Summit team, from the other women in the community, from women that we bring in as experts, if you want some coaching, if you don't want to have to figure things out on your own, right? If you want to work on your Peace Out protocol in community with us, then the Exodus ASAP membership is a place that I would be in today, okay? Join that today. Exodus ASAP is at exodusasap.com. It's a monthly membership. Right now, if you're watching this in January, I'm going to say the price, okay? But if you're watching this in the future, prices go up. Remember that. But right now, the price is $247 per month. This is not a membership where you join and just stick around forever. Exodus ASAP is a coaching community where you come in, you get coached, you make progress on the 8 parts of your Peace Out protocol, and then you leave. Leave the community, leave the country, leave the coaching, do it, okay? So $247 a month means you don't have to figure out your move abroad on your own. You decide how many months you're going to stay. Until you've made progress in each part of your Peace Out protocol, you might want to stay, right? The Peace Out protocol is, where am I going? What does it cost? Where's that money coming from? What do I do about my property and my stuff? What do I do about my people and my pets? What about healthcare? What about residency? And then what about mindset and fear? When you make progress on each piece of that peace out protocol, right? Those 8 steps together are the peace out protocol. When you make progress on each one of those steps, you probably won't need us anymore. Okay? But until you've made progress on each part of those, on the each piece of that peace out protocol, join us in Exodus ASAP so that your move abroad can no longer just be a fantasy. It's reality for me. It's reality for the women in the Exodus Summit community, and we want it to be reality for you because it's nice, okay? It's better, all right? You could live a life where you spend so much of your time and so much of your energy on the struggle, right? On getting something, some crumb from these worst white people, right? Or you could live a life where you don't have to do that. Right? You could go to a place where you're already going to get the treatment that you're struggling to get in the United States. That's my experience. Okay? I hope that will become your experience too. I don't know if there's a win for you in the United States, but there is a win for you, for your life out of the United States, in another country. Whether it's a permanent move to a very specific place or some temporary bopping around from place to place or something in between. Okay? Thank you so much for watching this video. Please let me know in the comments what your questions are about your move abroad. But remember that your answers are probably in the Exodus Summit community and in the Exodus ASAP membership and in the other videos I've linked to in the description of this video and the Exodus Summit quiz. Take the quiz, okay? Take the quiz. It'll be helpful. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button before you go. Thank you. And share this video with a Black woman you know who is making her decision on whether or not to leave the United States of America. All right. I'll see you again soon, maybe in Bogota, Colombia. Okay. Hasta luego. Bye.